I think design has a huge impact. First of all, I don't think I would be involved in an organization if it didn't have good design.
The way that I've seen it is organizations get to the point where they decide to hire a designer and they've already made the choice that they're willing to look at a problem in a non-linear way. And for an organization to get that far on their own is a really big deal. So when they've gotten there, they've done most of the work for you. What I've seen in the organizations that we've worked with, when it's less about the work that we do together and more about the process of working together.
Having worked both with corporate clients and nonprofits or even social enterprises and other cultural clients, I've seen that across the board, design can make a difference. Investing in design will help you get your message further, grow as an organization, get leverage in whatever your market is. And so I think in terms of potential for impact, design is really effective right across all the fields.
If a corporation or a not-for-profit are looking to become visible, as we would say, then applying the best forms of communication and design will unquestionably bring them to the standard that would happen anywhere in any sector. The design principles don't change just because they're a not-for-profit.
The early days of your organization are crucial for determining brand values, articulating your message to get leverage, communicating that to all your stakeholders, and investing in that early on will help you get to a higher level more quickly.
It might be better to solicit a very good design firm and decide how you want to work a pro bono or a cost or a material cost basis of doing the work, or working out something that helps both the design firm and the not-for-profit come to a managing relationship of how they're going to work together. And then the ultimate thing is to get to the point that the not-for-profit wants to get to. How do we get more money coming in? How do we get more visibility? How do we get our message out there?
I've worked with Canadian Roots Exchange, which is a nonprofit organization that runs youth exchange programs for Aboriginal and non-Aboriginal youth. And what they've told me is that I gave them an image that was years beyond where they actually were. They didn't have a budget for design, but I approached them, we expressed interest in working together, so we said, hey, let's write a grant proposal together. We received a grant for me to do a large amount of work for them, rolling out their identity and collateral over the first few years of the organization. So in those first stages of getting their organization running, they were able to look like they'd been doing it for years and they were experts in their field.
We came up with a logo, which is basically a hand with an M in the middle to represent my last name. And I thought it was extremely effective in terms of putting my candidacy out there into the community. And I think it really inspired people to go out and actually vote for me on election day. The brand has lived on after the campaign, and we're hoping to use it in the next campaign in 2014, and hopefully it'll follow me throughout my political career.
If you think your job is just to design things that are pretty, design things, if you're not thinking about what the outcome of that project is and helping become a strategic advantage to the organization, you've lost the battle. And I think when you look at nonprofits, as an example, is that the design of product to capture somebody's imagination and inspire and say, this is my story, this is the story that I want to tell.
I volunteer for is the United Way. A lot of people know that our brand is extremely iconic, but at the same time right now we feel that it's definitely not consistent when it's rolled out in different areas of the country or even around the world. So we've recognized as an organization that this is a brand that we need to protect and to promote and to update. And so one of the things that we're doing is we have brand design guidelines that all United Way chapters will begin to use.
So one example of a client I've worked with in Guatemala, the Federación de Pueblos Mayas, which is an agricultural cooperative of Mayan people. And they're in a position where they'd actually moved to another side of town. And without the presence of a lot of digital marketing, there was no really straightforward way in the conventional digital sphere of communicating, hey, we've moved down the street. So instead, what we did was we just simply implemented signs in the town, put up some signs saying, hey, this way to the new FedEtma location. As part of that process, I also helped them form a new identity. It was something that was thrown together originally on a very low budget without much expertise. And so what I did with them was I went through and sort of got a sense of what their organization's values really were, and then how to articulate that.
Oftentimes in this industry, we have to compete with all these other competing brands out there. And the point is, you have to take good design. And the great thing with design is that I think it's accessible to anybody, from a small organization to a medium-sized organization to the largest organization. So anybody can have great design. So that's why it's really important for small organizations to really invest the time and energy towards creating a great graphic design and look for their organization.
It's no different whether it's an ad agency, a design studio, a really good freelancer who understands what they're doing. So from a job perspective, it's just as challenging as if it was for an industry that's for profit.
What good visual identity and good branding and good color and good typography and like the simplest, most subtle things bring the charitable organizations and the corporate organizations together playing in the same field. And it's not that one is playing in a lower or higher field, it's just they're playing in different fields and they end up meeting in the same place. So when the attention of the public is drawn to any messaging, not only now with the strong visual identity are the corporations, but also playing on that same field are these not-for-profits. So they come into the space where the public is looking.
Should there be some sort of social ethos incorporated into design education? I'd say absolutely, yeah, but I don't think it should be something that's tacked on. I think the reality is, in a utopian society where design is integrated in that, I think design by default would be doing social good. The reality that we're in currently in a hyper-capitalist society is that often the default for design is convince people to buy stuff that they don't need. And so your role as a designer is actually deceptive, and you get rewarded for doing a good job of masking the truth.
The Kara's book, In the Bubble, speaks to that very clearly, that designers have designed themselves into a mess, and now we have to design ourselves out of this mess. Because we've created a lot of this. We've colluded with industries and corporations to create a lot of waste, a lot of unquestionably bad thoughts or designs that are causing for the dumps to be loaded with things that shouldn't be there, the toxicity of things. We're not paying attention to the things we should be paying attention to. And we can't just keep going in a direction where this just doesn't stop. It can't just keep going on like this.
One of the individuals or advocates that I've seen best produce material that's fun and interesting and reflective of their work is actually Dave Meslin, and he does work on democracy building at the municipal level and how to make this city a better city for everybody. And he's worked on various projects. He doesn't run his projects on a lot of money, and he's not part of a large organization. He's what he calls himself a community choreographer. He's an independent individual that really hopes to change the communities that he works in.
I've had the pleasure of working as a designer on the team for Sojo, and it's been really an exciting process to be a part of. I think design is a huge element of what Sojo has to offer. Their content is a vast hub of resources that are great for aspiring entrepreneurs and young visionaries. But without thoughtful design to hold that content, present it well, and to make it user-friendly, no one's going to use it, and it's not going to have the impact it could on the world.
I think that if they were to find designers that were socially aware and try to integrate that awareness into their work, that they would be more prone or feel more strongly about using designers like that. For me, actually, I've chosen web designers that have a background working with not-for-profits, and that kind of understanding of what we're trying to convey to our audience has been really, really important.
I also think the design schools have to pay more attention to this and put this into the consciousness of students that they have a responsibility, not as a designer, but as a designer citizen. They are a civilian like every other civilian, and the impact of what designers do impacts on them in their citizenry, because they're a citizen. And whatever happens to others happens to them.
The quality of work that we do is quite high, and we do a lot of amazing work in communities, but we don't necessarily have the resources to be able to produce materials that reflects the quality of our work. And often we're struggling to try to find ways to develop better materials. So that would either mean partnering with organizations that have access to designers, or it would mean finding people to be able to do it for free or for a minimal cost.
It's about design as a language that speaks to a certain type of person, and that type of person is becoming more and more the average person who sees design as a language. And so, so if you don't speak the language of the masses, you're not going to get the resources you need to make change happen.
Challenge to the next generation of designers is that the world needs more of you. And we need you to get out there and actually work for social good.
There are a lot of amazing things happening in the not-for-profit sector, and a lot of great projects that are really making positive changes in their communities.
We really are the center of the universe in the sense that everything is design.
In a more broad way of possibilities for doing good through design. It doesn't always have to be work for charities or social justice movements or nonprofits.
The messages that we can portray through the work that we do, through changing the slightest thing that makes someone's life easier.
Not only is it a good business that there's a lot of need for it, but there's a goodness to it that makes you feel good when you've done it.
I'm more fulfilled now that I'm running my own business, choosing the clients that I want to work with. So at the end of the day, I know what I'm putting my energy towards and have a better sense of what I'm contributing to in the big picture.
You can actually take what you believe in and go and find those people so that you can say, this is the type of area and industry that I would like to be in, and it's a not-for-profit. I believe in doing something because I'm committed to putting messages out there that are for others, not just for making profit.
So don't be afraid to share your vision and your talents with the rest of the world, and you'd be surprised what the positive impact it would have.
I really hope that you are inspired to actually go out and design for good.
Design for good.
I design for good.
Designing for good.
Designing for good.
Designing for good.
I design for good.